Hi, welcome back to Guessagaingaming and the ongoing series of games I bought in the PlayStation Store New Year's sale. If you've been watching any of them, you'll know that I bought quite a lot of games, including quite a few horror games, because they seem to be the ones that are reduced the most from original prices, probably for good reason. I guess it's because they're usually games that people only play one time and it's not great replayability. But anyway, this is another horror game. It's called Remothered. I had been aware of it before. I'd seen it on PlayStation Store. I'm not for about buying it because me and horror games don't really mix, although I love horror movies. So I don't know why that is. I just don't find them scary. I find them kind of repetitive and annoying. And although a lot of horror movies are kind of repetitive and keep going over the same old ground, slasher things, you know what's going to happen, don't look behind the door, there's someone waiting behind the door, those kind of things. In horror games, it just seems slower and more repetitive and boring. I don't know, I just don't really get on with them, and plus I find some of the mechanics annoying. I'm not really a puzzle person in games either, so that's another thing. In a game where there's a lot of things going on, I don't know, Dragon Age Inquisition, there's a few puzzles in that, but it's a massive game and you get a few puzzles. But I don't want general, like how do you open this and how do you get out of that kind of things. But anyway, so firstly, this game, I won't make a very long video as I haven't made long videos about any of the games I bought, and especially the horror games, because I think if you do like these kind of games you need to see for yourself, because obviously they're really one-time play. So I won't play it for very long. I'll just give you my thoughts on the bit I played it for a couple of hours. I actually gone back earlier and started again so I could start from a different point where there's not as much revealed. So firstly, things I did like about this game, it's set in 1973, and I think that suits a horror game, it suits horror movies. In general, I love 1973, I love music from 1973 and TV and movies from 1973, don't get me wrong. But I'm not really keen on anything that goes back trying to recreate that time. So if a movie now is set in 1973, I'm usually like, ugh. But it works in this game. I think it's a good atmosphere. It's better than Canarium and Oxide Room and those things where you wake up in a strange outpost in the snow, or you wake up in a bath in some small hotel and they seem very done to death. So okay, it's a creepy kind of lodge, hotel-y kind of thing. It's been a little bit before, but I'm not going to go into the story of this really. But we're a girl who's being looked after in this, I don't know, it's like a boarding school, care home sort of lodge place, I don't know, all of those. I think it used to be a lodge and maybe now it's a care home. But anyway, so we're this girl, her name's Jennifer. And we have woken up, we went to sleep, and we woke up and we're not sure what's going on. That seems to be another thing that happens in lots of these games, but at least we're not in a bath this time. And another thing I like is we're not locked in a room. So those two things which I found very stupid and annoying in games, we're not locked in a room or in a bath, we're actually free to walk around straight away into the big wide world, or the big wide corridors. This game actually reminded me a lot of a game called White Day. I don't know if I've never played that game on the channel actually. It's a Japanese game set in a school, and it reminded me of that. So a lot of the bit I've played so far, and it actually tells you this quite often in the hints, is pick up things because they can be useful, and that's normal in lots of games. In horror games it seems to be normal as well, but also you can hide from your enemies in cupboards and rooms. And I've had to do that a few times with different results. I've been killed a few times and you start back to where it last saved. I don't necessarily like that idea. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just talking personally. It's a bit frustrating. In a game, again, in a general RPG type game where you have to do stealth or something, you have to hide in a cupboard or hide in a room. Okay, that's fine. But as a sort of feel for a whole game, walking around corridors and generally having to jump into cupboards all the time, it just seems a bit boring, and two, in a place like this, if you were in I don't know, a game, a big RPG, it doesn't matter, Cyberpunk, it doesn't matter, we'll pick anything, Watch Dogs Legion, you're hiding somewhere, if you wish to, if you wanted to, it makes sense because the other people may not know you're there, and you're usually in quite a big world, so you could hide outside in a shed, you could hide in in an alley you could hide in somewhere in a different room. But in a thing where you're a young girl and you're limited to the corridors in a floor of a building, hiding in a cupboard at the end of the corridor isn't really going to really do it, is it? Because they're going to look in the cupboard. It doesn't really make sense. I know it happens in horror films as well, but it seems, again, in a one-off situation, in a movie or in a horror or in a game, it might be fine. But as an ongoing mechanic in a game, if you meet an enemy hide in a cupboard, I'm not really sold on that. White Day, there was a lot about hiding in places, and I didn't like that.
Wandering around the house.
There's a woman in the room down there who tried to kill me for some reason. I don't think I'm going to go down there. Plus she's going to talk to herself for some reason, which is going to be annoying, so we won't go that way. So yeah, not really sure about that mechanic. Again, if you like this kind of game, you probably accept that, so it is what it is, but it's not really my thing. Also, another thing that I think is a bit odd in games, in this game, just to say this game, or in the other horror games I played, to be honest, and especially this one, you need to search everything for items, but that doesn't make sense to the game, because you're a young girl who's woken up in a room where you know where you are. You know it's your room. It's not that you've been kidnapped and you're a young girl. You wouldn't go to every drawer and every single piece of furniture and start searching for things. No one would. You wouldn't. Even if you were a grown adult in a proper horror movie, you wouldn't wake up in a room and then run around looking for every single drawer for something and pick up every single thing you could find. No one would. So again, it's one of those mechanics that I'm not really sold on. I mean, yeah, if you're this girl, you might go along here and you might find there's a knife, let's just say, on the table. You might pick up a knife because you're a bit unsure what's going on, but you wouldn't pick up every single knife and every single pencil, and it doesn't make any sense why you would do that. You just think, I wonder where everybody is. That's what you think straight up. So I guess they're just things that are in these kind of games. Have I looked at that before? I can't remember what that is. I've got a shovel. Why someone would leave a shovel on a table in a place like this, I don't know, but we have a shovel, and again, you wouldn't walk around with a shovel. And another thing which is it's kind of immersion breaking for me, again, and I know I'm referring to RPGs a lot, and they're different, I'm not saying they're the same, but in RPGs, by the nature of what they are, you have backpacks and you have like big jackets and you're holding a lot of items, but this is a young girl who hasn't got any pockets or any backpack. So where's she putting a shovel? Don't answer that, it's a rhetorical question. But she's already picked up knives and spoons and other bits and pieces, and there's nowhere she would be putting them. It doesn't make any sense. I appreciate that you can collect items and you haven't got to worry about infantry. It'd be very annoying if you're running backwards and forwards to a room putting things in a box. But it just goes back to that you wouldn't pick up everything because you wouldn't be able to carry all these things, and there's nowhere she is carrying them. So where's she taking the shovel from? Answer on the postcard. So Remothered, it's quite a nice looking game. It's got quite a good atmosphere. It's not as dark and annoying, I was going to say, as Oxide Room and Canarium, which is good because they're just dark and annoying as far as I'm concerned. I like the setting, I like the feel of it. The fact it's a young girl is slightly more interesting, but I don't. It falls back onto the same things that are just not really very scary or realistic. Picking up everything you can find and putting it I don't know where, hiding in cupboards every time you hear something and relying on the fact that they won't know in a place with a couple of corridors you're in the cupboard. It's odd. So I would say of the horror games I've played so far, and including the ones I played a little bit earlier before this series, Welcome to Hamwell was one. That was a really annoying, stupid game. Kona was one. I didn't like that either. But it's better than those. I like the art style. Like I said, I like the atmosphere. I like the character. There's another young girl you interact with, and that seems they have quite a believable conversation. But I'm just not sold on this as a long-term way of playing a game. Whether I want to go wandering around corridors, picking up items, hiding in cupboards all the time, I don't know. It's not really for me. But like I said, out of the games I played like this, horror games, this is probably the one I would say is the more likely one I would play again. Anyway, thanks for watching Guess Again Gaming. Remothered this is, and I'll be back with another game that I bought in the PlayStation Store New Year's sale next time. Till next time, take care for now.